WHBC.
Your severe weather station. News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Here's your AccuWeather forecast. This afternoon, partly sunny and pleasant, high of 82. Tonight, partly cloudy and humid, low of 66. Tomorrow, very warm with times of clouds and sun, high of 89. Sunday, sunny, very hot and humid, high of 94. Monday, sunny, record-breaking temperatures and humid, high of 95. With the AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg for News Talk 1480 WHBC.
News Talk 1480 WHBC.
WHBC.com.
This Hall of Fame residency program interview is driven by Akron Auto Auction. Check out what Chad Bailey and his staff have going on by checking out their website at akronautoauction.com.
Thank you for that, Kenny. And once again, we're so happy to be here in studio with the Pro Football Hall of Fame residency program today. We're doing it live on Facebook. And today, man, it doesn't get much better than this. And I've been saying this for months. It seems like every week we get a different Pro Football Hall of Famer in studio. That ends up being my favorite. And we've had a couple of minutes to talk since you got here. And today, no different than any other time, Will Shields joins us in studio today. Fantastic offensive guard from your Kansas City Chiefs. Will, welcome to Canton again.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You know, when you become a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we say this, we hear it all the time. Now you're a member of our community. How does that make you feel?
You know, it's really unique within itself, the simple fact of you've played a sport, you've done different things, you've been part of a team, and now you get the opportunity to say you're part of a new team. It's really cool. It's one of those things that you never really envision until it happens.
Yeah. You know, I go through and I look at the Wikipedia pages. I try to jog my memory first. What did this guy do? What were the statistics? And the one thing that I just revel in is the fact that we had Rondé Barber in last week. Mm-hmm. And you can rattle off statistics and numbers and interceptions and touchdowns. But the thing that he was most proud about was a consecutive game streak, and you're one of those guys too. You're here, and you played 14 years in the NFL and didn't miss a game?
Yeah, 14 seasons.
How in the world is that possible?
Sometimes luck, sometimes craziness, all the above. But it worked out really well that I was able to actually line up week in and week out. Sometimes hobbling, sometimes very crawling, but still to say that you were able to play in every game that you possibly could, it's beyond itself to even think that.
Is it really 224 games?
It's actually 231 if you count playoffs.
Those numbers are always wrong.
If you count playoffs.
Okay, I do.
But regular season, 224. I started 223 of 224.
Because you guys had a consecutive streak of, 6-7 years in the playoffs?
We had a few years there
that
we were in the playoffs, but always end up losing in the first round, that kind of thing. So that added about 10 to 15 games.
I got to tell you, have you ever, obviously you know about it now, and when you were playing, it was kind of in its infancy. But the fantasy football became so big during the time that you were still playing.
Yeah.
But if it ain't for you, there's no Priest Holmes.
Well, and that's sort of the thing that's interesting about it. Fantasy changed the way people watch the game. It that hardcore fan that used to have their home team and everything else sort of changed. So then you start looking at it as, how good is that guy? How good is this guy? You know, I'm a diehard, let's say, Cleveland Brown fan.
Yeah.
But this week, if they play against my guy, I want him to win. I want my guy to do well. And I still want to win the game, but I want him to have a bunch of yards.
Right.
So it changed the way everybody looks at the game.
Yeah.
It changed, and it also becomes more statistical. It becomes that point of, everybody's now analyzing how good could this guy be and how bad or anything else. And they still don't understand. It's still a game.
Yeah.
It's still, you got to be healthy. You got to be a key part of that week's game.
Right.
Because most people go, they're going to have a great game every week. No, they're not. There's going to be weeks that's going to be up and down and indifferent. Only thing that's consistent is that you're going to have 5 guys in front of you to block, and that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, it's outstanding, too. And I was watching some more of your videos, and a lot of players come to mind, but Trent Green was a quarterback during your time with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the one thing that he said that I caught was, Will Shields, nobody ever had a bad word to say about him, and he was a clean ball player. But who was dirty that you went up against?
I really don't go down that pipe, but I will say Romanowski was one of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he was dirty or whatever, but he, there's some things that sort of came up to where you go, man, did he really do what I think he just did? And I don't think it was, maybe intentional, but there's those things. And you had some little guys that had the little guy syndrome, then they take little shots at you and stuff like that. So it created those little problems. But, I think it was probably the simple fact that it was in division, Denver kind of thing. So it made everything a little more sensitive at that point.
You know what else was in division? Was the San Diego Chargers at the time, right?
Yes.
And you get inducted, and I saw it with Junior Seau.
Yes.
So as he being a middle linebacker, you being a guard, you had to go up against him quite a bit, didn't you?
I had to chase him around quite a bit. He was an amazing guy of what he could do, what he could decipher. I mean, that's something. He could see things, and he studied film, and he knew things that was going to happen. And you're in your stance, and you're going, no, don't go over there. Don't go over there. Don't do this. And then you chase him down. There was a play that I've actually had Junior Seau rush me. I grab him, throw him down. He gets up. The ball gets tipped. He makes an interception 10 yards down the field.
Wow.
And I go, this is amazing. And then I'm trying to chase him down and tackle him after that, after I thought I had blocked him. He's one of those guys that played sideline to sideline, a million miles an hour. And basically, you had to figure out where he was every snap.
You had a rare combination, though, of size and skill. Your footwork, phenomenal as far as an offensive lineman is concerned. And a lot of times, people that don't play the game don't understand it. But you got so quick. Tell us about how you were able to hone in on your specific skill and be a great, not a good, a great offensive tackle.
Well, being a guard, you have to worry about different things, and I didn't have the size, I didn't have all the speed, I didn't have everything else, so I had to work on angles. So I had to figure out what angles to get there to try to make your block happen. So I was more of a cerebral understanding, hey, I got to get to this point, I got to stay this low to get underneath guys and things like that to sort of make things happen. And that's what made me work on footwork. It made me try to figure out, okay, how can I get back to balance? How do I not cross over and get in trouble? How do I make guys only go to one side and one way so that they didn't have a two-way go? And those are things that you sort of had to work on and figure out as you also decipher the playbook and make sure that you're using it in the context of where the play is supposed to go.
All your entire career with the Kansas City Chiefs,
yes,
which doesn't usually happen that much any longer. You played for a guy that we pretty much knew very well here in, we're an hour south of Cleveland.
Yeah.
Most of us are Cleveland Browns fans, although not unlike anywhere else in the country, there's a lot of Steeler fans in this area. They're only 2 hours away.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about Marty Schottenheimer, playing for Coach Schottenheimer, because a lot of us feel that Marty Schottenheimer deserves a place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I don't want to get into does this guy deserve, does that guy deserve?
Yeah.
Because we can talk about that all the time. But what was it like playing for Marty?
It was awesome. He was a great guy. Gave me an opportunity being drafted there. He was defensive oriented, and he did not have any bones about it. Yeah. Defense is, in his mind, won championships, everything else. He always said, hey, you give us 14, 15 points, we should win. And that was his philosophy. Tough defense, keep the ball, grind it out, win it at the end. But great coach, great understanding, great motivator, and got us to buy in. Had those long, hard practices. He believed in making your body tough.
Yeah.
And that's how he played. That's how he wanted you to play the game.
You know who else believed in those long, hard practices? But I think he softened up a little bit when he got to the Kansas City Chiefs. Our guy, Coach Vermeil.
Yeah, they said he softened up. I don't know. Everybody that was there practicing, I don't know about that. We still had those long practices. His favorite thing was fill up your gas tank. So that's a sign that there's a lot of things you're going to have to do to make sure it happens. But he believed in that same thing. You got to practice hard, practice long to make sure you could get it right. And then when the game came down to it, be able to still have some gas in the gas tank when you came to the fourth quarter to finish it off.
Will Shields is our guest in studio today. 14 years with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a third-round draft pick, 74th overall from Nebraska. And we were talking about Coach Vermeil, and he was here just a few short weeks ago, right, Brian? And we had the opportunity to hang out with him, and we interviewed him when he got inducted just a few years back. So I reached out to Coach, and I said, Coach, any messages for Will Shields? And this is what he wrote me today. Just tell Will they don't come any better than Will Shields, and it's not a secret. Anyone that's been around Will Shields for any amount of time knows what I'm saying is exactly true. I love this guy, Coach V.
Yeah, sounds just like Coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's one of those guys that sort of pulls you in and makes you feel like you're at home and family and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what made him unique. He believed in, hey, you spend a lot of time together and you should have fun being around each other. But also there's a goal in mind. There's things that you have to get done for him to be also happy with you across the board. And if he wasn't happy, he was willing to tell you that, hey, I'm not happy with you. There's been many days he'll walk into a meeting and basically blast somebody because, hey, I think, and he'll tell you what it is. And it's not like you can take it as he's being mean or being this, that, and the other, because he did it with everybody.
Yeah, that's amazing. And he's so nice. I mean, he's so available. We met him, like I said, a couple of years ago. We've had dinners with him whenever he comes into town, and he's always available for the Kenny and JT show and a lot of people. And that brings us back into the residency program. And when you come back, normally, how many times have you been back to the parade so far since you've been inducted?
Well, I'm here every year. I try to make it back every year to be a part of most of the different things that go on. I've only missed it the 1 year, and I think that was the year that Coach got in. And the only reason I missed that year is I had COVID. So I didn't make it. But I try to come back every year and do some aspect of different things that goes along here in Canton.
Well, the reason I asked the question that way is because a lot of times without the residency program, we would have no idea. And, Kenny and I have the opportunity to ride in a parade. We shouldn't even be there. But, I mean, we enjoy the fact. But we're there for some of the local people that they can put a face to the radio and know that we have faces for radio. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah. But the thing is, when we see you guys, we don't see everybody because we're in the parade at the same time.
Yeah.
But what the residency program does, it gives us the availability to get up and personal and maybe meet a guy. So what does it mean to you when you come back for something like this?
What's really cool is the simple fact of it is you get a chance to come back and be a part of the community, and you get to see other aspects of the community that you don't when you're here for that weekend. That weekend is hard to get into the actual crux of what is it about being here in Canton. What is the people about being here in Canton? So you could be on the parade walking through and you're waving and you think it's important, you think it's this. But when you get a chance to be here for a weekend and be a part of different programming and different pieces, you actually get to know the actual crux of what it's about.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it cool.
How does Canton stack up with some of these smaller markets? I mean, when you come home here to Canton and you're part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, what goes through your mind? Is this like, it's not just like some farm town. I mean, does it stack up with some of the bigger markets that we don't get to see?
Well, I think it's the process of what you're trying to build. And I think it's still a building market that has to grow into what the Hall of Fame can become.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's a part of trying to make sure that, hey, all the businesses are part of the Hall of Fame, and the Hall of Fame is a part of the business, even down to where then you build out, hey, we're still part of the community. And so how do we help with community services and do different things? You need to know what's going on in the city if you're going to be a part of the city.
Yeah.
And that's what the residency sort of does. So, we did a football camp for offensive linemen the other day.
Nice.
And I'm going, I would never get a chance to actually sit in front of these young men and coaches and go through true skills and drills. I mean, you could come and talk about this, talk about that, but when I get an hour and a half to actually get your hands in there and show them what you want to do and that kind of stuff, you find out about young people. You find out about what the community is about. You find about the coaching staff and what you can do. And then you go from there to a pantry, and you're now doing a food pantry, and you're doing different things there. You get to find out, how does it affect the community? How does it actually grow? And if you're doing stuff like that in your own community, it sort of builds that residence of, well, how do I help? How do we keep building those different places up to make sure that Canton is what it should be, and vice versa. Where I'm living at, I'd be like, hey, they do this in Canton. Can we do that here in Kansas City? Can we? The more you learn, the better it is, the better you can build.
We've really been embracing it, too. When you look around town, you'll see, like, when you go down the parade route, you'll see Kansas City Chiefs fans here, New York Giants fans here. And they actually have signage up now, to whereas, growing up here my entire life, we didn't really embrace it that well. But people that were fans of the league, we were there every weekend, and we love the Pro Football Hall of Fame. When you come back and you visit, what blows you away in that museum, which I feel is probably the best museum in America?
Well, I think it's always the change, because there's always something new to check out that they've put in and that they've built, and they're a part of it. But, still the cool part is that bus room. You walk through that bus room and you see those guys that you emulated and wanted to be about and be a part of those guys. And then you can walk from that room, and then when you come back for the hall, if those guys are in town, you actually can sit in there and listen to them talk. And that was the reason you played the game. is because you saw these other guys doing it, and you wanted to be a part of that group and part of that fraternity. And then you walk in and you see a Joe Namath sitting there.
Yeah.
You see a different guy that's there. And you get a chance to meet him and talk to him, or vice versa. I'd just be a fly on the wall and just sit there and let them talk.
Right.
Because it's a different era, and you learn more every time you sit down. And so that's what I do every time I come in. I try to, hey, I want to sit over here at this table and listen to them talk about what they did when they were playing and the things they had to go through when they were playing, because you're still learning, you're still growing, you're still being a part of it. And it's really cool to see all the famous people that you used to emulate. You used to pretend like, hey, I'm this person when I'm out here playing games. I'm here doing that. But to me, that bus room is really cool because it's something that's really unique.
I like the way they do it now, too, because they do it in groups of the class that you were inducted. Years ago, you'd walk down a hallway, there's Bronco Nagurski, there's Marion Motley. No rhyme, no reason to it. Now you go in there, there's Will Shields, the class of 2015, and they're all together.
Yeah.
And I like it better that way, too, because it really is more of a unique atmosphere now to see, okay, these guys are just the greats of the game. When you were growing up in Middle America, we mentioned the fact that you went to Nebraska. Dallas Cowboy fans, who are you looking up to when you were a kid?
Well, I grew up in Oklahoma, so because I was an Oklahoma kid and my family's all from Texas, so I was, Dallas Cowboys. And that era was more Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers, Pittsburgh Steelers. Those were the teams that were playing back and forth for the championship and that kind of thing. So you sort of follow those different teams as they were going through. But you always sort of fell back and like, I'm from Texas, so Dallas was the sort of the beginning team, even though, Earl the Pearl was the guy you always pretended to be when you're playing pickup football. Yeah. So you had certain guys that you would follow from the area, but that was the era, and that was what was a lot of fun. So you would follow those teams and want to be close to them, but you also emulated those players.
It's really unique. Last week, they had a National High School Football Hall of Fame inducted here in Canton, Ohio, and we had the opportunity to meet Marcus Dupree.
Yes.
Outstanding running back at Oklahoma, and I'm sure you can remember Marcus when he was running. He had that Jerry curl, and he was outstanding.
Yes.
But we also got the opportunity to meet Craig James of the Pony Express. Yeah. And my partner, I wish you could meet Kenny. He unfortunately can't be here today. He had a hernia surgery, but I've never seen Kenny, and we've interviewed everybody from LeBron James to Craig James. He was more geeked up about interviewing Craig James. That's the Pony Express. So, I mean, growing up and being a Cornhusker, is there anybody that you ever met along that path that, like, man, or maybe even the Hall of Fame now, that I can't believe I just met Joe Green? Just comes to mind. Anybody?
Yeah, well, that's one guy that you get in every time you meet him. And the other day I'm over at Bobby Bell's 85th birthday party. And it's in Kansas City, and I walk in, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm here to see Bobby and everything else. Turn around, and Joe Green's right there. And I'm going,
oh, man.
Yeah, hey, Joe, how are you doing? He looked at me and goes, you're everywhere, aren't you? I was like, yeah, I'm sort of everywhere. I'm all over the place. But also, as you go through it and you go through the college world and where you were living, Tingelhoff is a classmate. I didn't know Tingelhoff existed as a Nebraska Cornhusker.
Really?
Until we went into the Hall of Fame together. I remember
it was Minnesota Vikings.
Exactly. But even then, he was a linebacker in college, and then became a center for the Purple People Eaters.
Didn't know that.
And you're sitting here going, like, okay, who is Tingelhoff? And you're like, and I'm looking at it and it says Nebraska. Where did this guy come from? Because, that's not the norm. You come in, you switch positions, you do different things. But you didn't know. 18 years, never missed a game. Amazing.
Jeez, that really is amazing. They only played 12 games a season that year, or 14.
Still.
They were playing postseason games, too, in that cold.
Yes, in that cold. Open stadiums, cold weather. It's still just amazing within itself to know that you have guys like that are going in that you didn't even know. You didn't even get to use them as being your launching pad. Yeah. So.
Well, when you got inducted in 2015, I saw the video. David Baker came and knocked on the door. But when you find out that you're getting inducted, when the whole thing comes together and you have to develop a speech and you have to get somebody that's going to introduce you, who did you pick and how did it go down?
Well, I ended up picking my best friend basically, we've been best friends since 5th grade. At first, I was going to have all my kids do it. At that point, they could only get, you can only have 2 kids, and I have 3. So it was like, okay, which one do you pick? And I was tough to do. So I was like, yeah, we can't do that. So my best friend Adrian, he actually introduced me. We grew up together. We've been best friends since the 5th grade, playing football together through high school and all of that good stuff. But he's the guy that always pushed me to do little things outside of the box. We're little things like in middle school, the challenge of a 7th grader going against a 9th grader.
Wow, yeah.
That was my friend Adrian. He was the guy that talked you into that kind of stuff. Like, I bet you Will could block you. I bet you Will could do this.
Oh, yeah,
I bet you Will could do that.
Put him out there instead.
He's like, hey,
right.
But he's a small guy, so it makes sense. He's the smaller of the group, so he was like, yeah, I bet you Will could do that. I bet you Will could do this. So he was a guy that always sort of pushed me to say, dude, you can do things that you didn't think you could do. And that was the coolest part about it. And he never put me in harm's way because he already seen me do things that I myself didn't know I could do.
That's amazing, too, because we hear Pro Football Hall of Famer, and then we forget and we fail to realize all the accolades in college. You won numerous awards there. You're in the College Football Hall of Fame. Now a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Your name and number's been retired how many times now?
Number's not retired, but
Ring of Honor?
I'm in 9 different
I still
things,
consider, I consider that kind of like a number retirement, but I understand where you're coming from.
So I'm in 9 different Hall of Fames.
That's amazing.
So that's pretty cool.
So you come back and you're part of the residency program now.
Yeah.
What kind of things do they have you doing this week while you're in town?
Well, the camp. We did the camp in the morning so I could get in front of the O-linemen and work with them. We worked at the food pantry, got a chance to go through and tour it and see how it's connected and all of that. This afternoon, we went over to Firestone.
Nice.
And got a chance to see some of the championship that was going on and meet people there. And we're doing little things of that nature. Get to come talk to you, which is always the most important
top
piece,
of
right?
The list, man, right there.
Come and hang out and talk about the residency, so that always works well. And then tonight we'll be actually going to do scholarships for kids, and that's actually going into the field of health and wellness. And it's really cool because it's like our trainers and everything like that. So we're going to be giving out scholarships for those kids that actually have earned it across the board. And it's really cool because that's something that I think everybody talks about, how many games you play. Without those people, you can't play that many games.
Yeah.
Without the trainers, without people doing the taping and getting you ready and walking you through it and telling you, hey, you need more rest or you need to do this or do that. They're that important to every sport, to every part of it. And then as we get older, we're going to need it anyway.
Yeah.
All of us is going to need a trainer somewhere down the road because things start to fall apart as we get older.
Right?
So be like, hey, I got this back issue. Well, go to the trainer, get some rehab, do some different things. So we have to keep training for the future, and that's going to be really cool to be able to be a part of that. To be a part of that tonight, to be able to watch these kids start their career and work their way down the source of being one of those kids that maybe, 20 years down the road, if I'm still around, they can help me with a bad knee, bad ankle, or bad back.
You have a background in fitness too, though, don't you?
Not a background in it, but I did own a fitness center for a while. So I've learned a lot of different things from being around the fitness world. So it's an important part, and I think that's, even when I played, it was an important part. Being as healthy as you can be, being as flexible as you can be. Those kind of things sort of kept me on the field as many games as I got to play.
I would imagine. I mean, when you go that many games and 14 seasons without missing a start, although you missed one start, why didn't you start the first game you ever suited up?
I had a coach that had this philosophy that rookies get you fired. So he told you that rookies get you fired, and he goes, you might get to play a couple of snaps here and there, but I don't start rookies to begin with because they get you fired, and that's the whole point. And he had a guy that they had brought in because that was a first-year free agency to play that right guard spot. So that was sort of the second-tier thought of whatever that was going. Third, fourth play of the game, left tackle or left guard gets hurt, right guard moves to left guard, and then I move into the right guard spot, and then it was my spot from that point forward. So,
is this the motivation? I'm not starting today, but next week, and that's it. You're not getting it back.
My motivation was way before that. It was the simple fact, even the draft was a motivation for me. Being a third-round pick, I was like, had the chip on my shoulder, and, hey, man, I won the Outland Trophy. I should be higher. I should be this. And there was other guards that were going to go before me. And, and I knew that, but it's still that frustration of saying you've sort of performed. And I use it as my motivation, which was cool. Of like, hey, all 31 other teams are going to pay for not giving me an opportunity. So I was going to be ready. I was going to work myself into it. I was going to do different things. And at one point, the coaches did ask when we were doing pre-interviews of, what would make you think you would be a good asset to the team? And I just looked at them and I go, I've never been a backup to anyone for
Good
that
for
long.
you.
And that was
That's awesome.
that was my statement. I've never been a backup to anyone that long at all. I've always become a starter somewhere, somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And that sort of fell into place. But the whole point was that I ended up being ready enough to get that spot. And then we still, during the season, after, so many games or so many series, he'd bring the other guy back when the other guy got healthy, and he would come in for a couple of series at right, a couple of series at left, that kind of stuff. But I always got the chance to start the game from that point forward. So,
see, there are a couple of things that come to mind for me. Ed Reed said when he was inducted that when he played college football at the U, they had so much talent that you better play hurt, because if you don't, somebody's going to take your spot.
Yeah.
So I always think about that that best ability is availability because you're not injured or whatever.
Yeah.
But also the motivational factor. Games change. Techniques are different. But when you play with motivation, that message today is as clear as it was 30 years ago.
Oh, it doesn't change. You got to have that motivation to do those things and to put the work in and to make yourself a little different than the norm.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, you're just another person. You're just another number. So you got to do the little extra things. You got to put a little extra work in. You got to separate yourself. So I was that guy that was selfish. And I told people, like, look, I don't want anybody ever practice at right guard if I'm the right guard.
That's a great story.
I don't want you.
That's
I don't want
awesome.
anyone ever to practice in that spot. That's my job, my spot. That's what I do. Because I don't want anybody to ever have a light to go, hey, that kid could do it just as good as Will can. Oh, no. I don't even want you thinking that way.
Yeah.
So I don't care about reps or whatever. And it was like, well, you need some reps off for what? It's my job.
Perfect. That's a great story. Will Shields is our guest. 14 years, all with the Kansas City Chiefs in the National Football League, culminates in induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2015. And since we're talking about awards, the one that I didn't mention yet is the one that's probably the biggest that we see now when they do the NFL awards show every year. And that's the Walter Payton Award. Yeah. How big of a deal was it for you to win it? Is it as big then that you won it as it is today that we see it all over TV?
It is. I mean, it's a great award to have. I always call it the Kansas City Award because without my teammates, there's no way I could have did it on my own. As we do fundraisers and community service and all of that, I sort of dragged my teammates along with me as we did this program. So that was what made it cool, is the simple fact that it was a lot of guys that gave a lot of time for us to actually get that award. And that's what made it so much fun to do, but also really cool. And it created that habit of, you love to be a part of the community. You love to be the building blocks. And we had 17 other guys that did stuff in the community in Kansas City when I got there. And I said, what's the difference? First of all, they were veteran players, and they had put their roots in and said, I'm going to be here long enough to help the community. And I said, I want to be one of those guys. And I want to be a part of that team. I want to make sure that, hey, they know that I'm going to be here. I want to be here. And I'm going to put my roots down to see how long I can stay. And that was sort of what, helped motivate and keep you going. Plus the simple fact of I had a Coach Osborne before this. He's very community oriented, and he built things out, and he had already started us down that pathway of, regardless of where you are, if you're a football player at the Nebraska Cornhuskers or the next level, you can help bridge other people to other things. You don't have to have something dramatic happen in your life for you to finally wake up and go, oh, we need help with this. Start beforehand. Look at where the world is and where you want to grow and how you want to be part of the community, and figure out there's more things that you can help with than not. And sometimes we get stuck with that, oh, well, I'm in this little bubble, I'm trying to get this done and that done and everything else. But most people don't join something or be a part of something until it affects them. So how do we get ahead of that? How do we go and say, hey, I want to find out what's going on in my community and see where I can help out? And so that's where Coach Osborne sort of started us with it. And then I went to Kansas City and I saw 17 guys doing different things, and they all had their own little sayings. So we had Joe Phillips with, what is it called, Chiefs Justice. And so he was a lawyer. So he would work in the law field. And then you had Derek Thomas's Third and Long Foundation. And you had different guys that had different things. And I was like, well, I want to be a part of that. What do I do? How do I build it? How do we grow? And so building the Will to Succeed Foundation was that next goal. And we started off with battered and abused women and children. We've expanded it out to where we work with about 50 or 60 groups over the last 30 years.
Wow.
And then a couple of years ago, we started a secondary 501c3 that helps find tech talent where tech talent usually isn't found. Workforce development program that actually helps Fortune 500 companies build from within the Kansas City area and find your tech talent there so you don't have to search all over the country.
Okay.
And let's build it right here at home, and it just makes it easier so they don't have to move somewhere else and go there. And they find quality people and quality jobs and help it grow.
Well, we found a quality individual right here in Will Shields joining us in studio today. So home is still Kansas City?
Yeah, that's where home is. Yeah.
And you're still running all those things. So what is life after football like for Will Shields?
Well, life after football was me. I was in a couple of businesses here and there, did a little dabbling here and there, and then, about 11 years ago, ended up working for the NFL, getting a job there, helping guys transition in and out of the league.
Okay.
So, I call us, we're forever transitioning. Once you've been in the NFL and you have a contract, you're considered a legend, you're always going to transition because regardless if you go back to high school, everybody's going to say, hey, remember that player, such and such, and he went to a college here and there. He's considered a legend. He actually got to the next level, and he did different things. What happens when you go there and become a pro?
Right.
And then your longevity is only 3 to 5 years is the max for most. If you go past, 4 as an offensive lineman, you usually can get 10. But 3 to 4 years, you're done. Yeah. You're moving on, and you're still young. You're still 22, 23, and if you even have a long career, you're still 34, 35. There's a lot of life left. So from that point, you're forever transitioning.
Okay.
And even I've been out since 2006, 2007. I still consider myself transitioning.
Okay.
I still try to figure out where am I going to go next? What am I going to do next? I mean, I put the first 20 years of my life into playing a game, then played for 14 years.
Right.
So that's 34 years.
Isn't that amazing?
So after 34 years, what else do I do? How do I grow? Where do I go from here? I got to find the purpose. And that's that hard part of what's your next purpose. And some of those purposes come back to look at it as like, hey, is my purpose to grow individually, or do I have to grow financially because I'm not where I need to be to be able to do everything else that I might want to do outside? So there's that growth of, hey, I might have to go get another job, which a lot of us have to do at 34 years old. Go get another job, find another thing, and do some different stuff to make ends meet because the league is only as long as it's long.
It's amazing, too, because, growing up in the heart of football here in Northeast Ohio, I mean, high school football, Friday nights, I mean, you might as well close down the city because everybody's going to a ball game.
Yeah.
What do I get at is this. For most of us who ever suited up and played high school football, maybe it's less than 1% that gets offered a Division I scholarship. Yeah. So if it's hard enough to get to that level, think about how much harder it is to get to the NFL, that next level. So that step is incredible for guys like us, and that's why we really always appreciate the time when you come back. And whether it's you or the next Pro Football Hall of Famer in the residency program, it's amazing because we don't take anything for granted here, and I'm sure you never did as well, and you continue to grow. And I just wondered why, in the transition process of after playing days, did the coaching bug ever hit you?
I thought about it. And so I actually did 2 internships with the Jets during the offseason of looking into the coaching world and that kind of stuff. And the second one, I was close to taking a job with the Jets of doing assistant O-line coaching and everything else. And it came to a point where I had that, but I had another business that I was trying to run at the same time, so I couldn't jump into that world. It's got to be the
passion, right?
Yeah, it's got to be the passion. Yeah. So I couldn't jump into that world, so I went to coaching 4th graders.
Did you?
So I went to coaching 4th graders. So I coached my son's team through, but then after that, my neighbor, we got together and we coached 2 different groups through 4th through 7th grade, and we took them through, and then we said, hey, your 7th grader, go to your middle school or whatever. So we took 2 groups through, and our last group that we just took through, this is their senior year, so they're all graduating now.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to go back and sort of work with the young guys, the younger kids, because it's something you can do on your own.
Yeah.
And I was considered the assistant to the assistant to the assistant.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a head coach. I wanted to be the assistant. So we had these young guys that we got a chance to work with them for a couple of years and try to get them just to love the game.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It wasn't about wins or losses or everything else. It's about teaching technique fundamentals and getting them to love the game. And that's the whole point. You got to find those kids that you can find the love and passion for it. And there's some kids that are just talented and just can show up and walk in and do it. And you're going, he has no love for the game, but he's just good.
Right. I mean, here's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, people, coaching fourth grade football, not even as the head coach. And it takes me back to when I was a kid, and I already mentioned the name Marion Motley. Marion Motley was great friends with my uncle. We would see him, hey, there's Uncle Marion. We never really put two and two together that, A, he broke the color barrier, and B, he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Yeah. When does that ever hit you that you're one of the greatest players that ever suited up? Will Shields is a Pro Football Hall of Famer.
You know,
not a fourth grade football coach.
I think, you know, some of that comes when you get a chance to come here and be a part of the group, and you get a chance to look at those guys that sort of molded you into where you wanted to be. Sometimes you look at it, it just depends on where you are and what you've done. But the other part of it is that you're still just Will Shields. You're still just that guy that wanted to play football and loved the game. And beyond that, everything else is sort of that second and third part of it, you know. And so it's really cool to be a Hall of Famer. It's really cool to be a part of that group, to be part of that 1% that ever played in pro, to be a part of that. But it's also the simple fact of, do you carry it the way you should carry it? Do you carry it for it? Do you build it for it? And to me, that's the most important piece.
What an iconic franchise, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I could sit here and talk to you until the cows come home. When I ask you about Lamar Hunt, when I ask you about Len Dawson, when I ask you about, you know, that team now being, you know, a franchise that's basically, you know, unstoppable in the AFC at times. You know, they throw around those words, and you know, this team could be a franchise that we're going to talk about for decades. And that was one when, even when you played, was still, you know, winning games at an alarming rate. Would you guys like go 11-0 or 11-5 the one year or something like that?
Yeah, we went 10-0.
10-0.
10-0. Then we came to Cleveland. And we lost to the Browns.
How is that possible? Oh, that's before they moved.
Yeah. Oh, no, Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Cincinnati we lost to. Sorry about that. But, you know, we've been hitting the head quite a few times. Just kind of remember everything. But Cincinnati beat us that year, and then we went into the playoffs, and we played the playoff games against Peyton. And no punts at all in the game.
Gotcha.
You know, you see the words. You say, hey, you played the game against who? Oh, Peyton Manning. And that was the year they won the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And so we played in that game. No punts at all, and it was at home, and it was a tough game. And that's what it is. It's really tough to get there. And some guys have dictated, year on year and year. We just so happen to find a quarterback, find a defensive tackle, find a tight end that put it together to where they have figured out a way to win over and over. And a great head coach that has always won. And that's the scary part about it. He won when he was in Philly, and now he's winning in Kansas City. He just found the right little niche to put it over the top and to make it happen.
It's outstanding. So when you're around and they see Will Shields outside of, are they building a new stadium?
We don't know. We don't know. They're working on it. We don't know if they're going to build one or not. I just sort of sit on the sideline and just say, okay, if they build one, that's great. If not, it's great too.
So when they see it at Arrowhead, I mean, it's still, you still create a crowd when they see people like you. You'd have to.
Yeah.
It's outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, Will, we appreciate you spending some time with us today. Like I said, I could keep you here all afternoon, but I know you've got places to be, part of the Hall of Fame residency program. And Will Shields from the Kansas City Chiefs. God love you, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it. You
we
have a good one.
Appreciate it. Thank you. You too.
It's Kenny and JT on WHBC.
WHBC AM 10, reliable as ever on